Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at selectors in Android styles. So just to recap quickly, I've got a application here that demonstrates a list in Android, and each of these separate items is configured by this XML here. So sorry, not this XML. Let's take a look. Layout, list message item, here we go. So if this ever opens, my computer's suddenly being very slow, but here we go. So this XML configures a single item in my list, and originally I hard-coded colors into this, but what I then did was I put the different colors into a style sheet, which is here, custom list styles.xml. This has a bunch of styles in, and then each of the styles has a name, such as subject, list background, and title. And in my list message item.xml, I then use those styles to style the items as appropriate, like this. And here's the one that styles the background. And within the style sheet itself, if we go to custom list styles, all you do is you take the names of things that you want to change, for example Android text size or Android background or text color, and set the values for them in these items, and one style can select a whole bunch of these things. And if you don't specify a parent for your style, which none of these have a parent, then you'll get, basically, with a few details, missing out a few details, you'll get basically the default file, the default style for your theme, for your device, sorry, as the parent style. So that's just a really quick recap of what we're doing, because what we're doing now is going to build on this a little bit, because the problem here is that when I click the item, because we've set the colors on it, we've set the background of each list item in particular by setting the style of the linear layout, they don't flash when you click on them. And we'd like some feedback to say that we've clicked on something on a particular list item. And to achieve that, what we need is a selector, and a selector is basically a way of specifying a color that is going to be different depending on what's actually happening in your user interface. So at the moment in my style, for example, let's take a look at, if I look at the list message item XML, which formats each item, the background of this linear layout, which contains the icon and my two text items here, so each linear layout contains one of these items, it's the background of it is set using this list background style, and that style is in custom list styles, and it is here, it's this style, and I'm setting this item here, the Android background item. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to change this to a selector. This is black, this is the color black, and I'd like to change it to a selector that will change depending on whether I've just pressed the item or not. So to do that, I need to click res here and go to new Android XML file, and I need a new, now this is the bit that I always forget, but I need let's see, new values, I think it is, and I need to change, in fact, let's just take a look. Yeah, I think it's new values, or is it new drawable? Here we go, it's new drawable, that's what I need. So I need to create a new Android XML file, select the resource type to drawable, and then I need to say that the root element here is going to be selector. So as long as you've got the word selector in your head, you can try different options as I just did and finally find the right one. So you need the selector to be the root element. And I'll give this a name, let's call it list background. Let's call it just list background, actually, that will be fine. And I'll click finish. And let's take a look at this list background.xml, which has now appeared in the drawable folder. So it's got the selector root tag, and if I place my cursor in here and use the autocomplete, control space, I can create an item, and if I've got the cursor within the first item tag and I use control space, now these are a bunch of different states that Android widgets can have, and I want to have a particular color for if my list item is pressed. So I'm going to go to Android state pressed here, and I'm going to use control space again and select true in there. And in here I can have a, well, let's do control space with my cursor between these two tags, and what I need in fact is a color. So let's go to color here and control space again, and I'll say Android color here and control space. Actually the control space is no use to me now. Now I can actually type a color finally. So I'll type hash. This is how you define colors if you recall, and let's have maximum red FF and half of green and none of blue, so that will be an orange color. And let's have another item here as well, so I'll click down here and add another item, and I'll leave out, I won't have a state for this item, I'll just leave it blank, so that this will be the default color of my list background, list item background. And putting the cursor in between these two item tags and using control space, I can create a color again and control space again and select Android color, and let's set this to black, so hash and 1 2 3 4 5 6 zeros, and I'll do control shift F to format this. So the way these are actually read is that your Android will just work down from the top, so, and it will find the first one that matches your item. So it will look and say, okay, is the item pressed? If it is, okay, I'll use this color, otherwise I will carry on down the list. And then if the item's not pressed, it will say, okay, this doesn't match my item because state pressed is not true for my item. So let's have a look at this one. Well, this can match anything as long as it's some kind of widget, so I'll apply this value for the color in this case. So this is my selector, which basically just supplies a different color depending on whether your item is pressed or whether it isn't, it's just in some other state. Anything other than pressed is pressed equal to true basically. And if this seems at all complicated, by the way, I recommend just doing this yourself, and it will become a lot simpler when you sort of type it in. It is a little bit convoluted, but it's not too bad, it's not rocket science. You just have to remember what goes where. And now I've got this selector. Let's go to custom list styles here, and for the background that I'm setting on my list item, and I'm using that style, if you recall, here for my linear layout. There's my list background style on my linear layout for the entire item. So in my style for list background, I'm going to change this hard-coded color black, get rid of that, use control space, and I'm going to select drawable, and I'm going to go to list background. The reason it's drawable is because my list background XML, the selector that I just created, is in the drawable folder where it has to be, and that's why we need this at drawable sign, and list background is the name that I gave to this XML file containing my selector. So finally, if I click run now, and if you get any errors, what will happen is you'll get probably your application in your emulator will say, or on your phone will say, it's been forced to stop, or sorry, the application stopped, or something like that. And you'll probably see some red text down here, but then just go to DDMS and you'll see red text like this. I think this is from a previous run with a bit of luck, and not this run. Then you need to look at this really carefully and look for what the error is, and try to find some reference, some mention of the XML file that it's actually in. But start from the top and read very slowly down, and you should find what you're looking for. Let's take a look. So this looks okay, so that error was just from a previous run. And now if I click my list items, you can see that my selector is invoked, and they flash orange when I click them. So that's it for this tutorial, and until next time, happy coding.